Pilots reported strange objects in the sky, bright, fast, impossible to identify. At first, it sounded like confusion, maybe reflections, maybe aircraft lights, maybe radar interference. Then the radar operators saw something impossible, objects appearing suddenly, moving strangely, changing position too fast. The military crew watched the screens carefully, trying to understand what they were tracking, trying to explain it logically. Then the pilots saw them too, lights in the darkness, silent, watching, keeping distance, then moving again, fast enough to disturb experienced aviators. The mission had started normally. Routine training, routine weather, routine procedures. Nothing suggested mystery, nothing suggested fear. But somewhere during that flight, the sky changed. Radio communication became tense, voices sharpened. Radar operators struggled to maintain tracking. Pilots attempted visual confirmation. Then, something happened. Nobody fully understood. The strange objects vanished. The radar signatures vanished. And moments later, everything disappeared from the screens entirely. Not destroyed, not confirmed, lost, just gone. The incident became known as Flight 412. And decades later, people still argue about what truly happened in that sky. The radar room noticed the anomalies first, blips appearing unexpectedly, small at first, then multiplying. Operators checked equipment immediately because radar errors happen, signals bounce, weather interferes, technical systems fail. But this felt different. The objects moved inconsistently, too sharply, too quickly. One moment distant, the next moment much closer. Military personnel began comparing readings, cross-checking equipment, trying to eliminate mistakes. The strange returns continued. Then the pilots reported visual sightings. That changed everything. Because radar alone can malfunction. Human eyes changed the situation completely. The crew described lights, bright objects maneuvering nearby, not ordinary aircraft patterns, not standard navigation lights. The tension inside communications increased immediately. Questions became faster, more urgent. The pilots sounded controlled, professional. But uncertainty crept into every exchange. Controllers requested altitude confirmation, position confirmation, visual descriptions. The answers became stranger. The objects reportedly changed direction rapidly, without visible reason, without conventional movement. Still, nobody wanted to jump to impossible conclusions. Military crews are trained for discipline, for caution, for verification, not fantasy. That is what makes the incident unsettling. The witnesses were trained observers, not random civilians staring into the night sky. And yet, their reports remained difficult to explain. The confusion deepened when radar contact became unstable. Objects appearing, disappearing, returning again, then fading, like something moving at the edge of detection. The atmosphere inside the operation shifted completely, because now multiple systems seemed involved. Visual sightings, radar anomalies, military communication, and no clear explanation connecting them all. To understand why Flight 412 became controversial, you have to go back to the beginning. The incident occurred during a military training mission. Night flight conditions, controlled operation, routine procedures. The aircraft involved belonged to the United States Air Force. Experienced crew members on board, experienced radar personnel monitoring operations. Nothing about the mission was unusual initially. Weather conditions were manageable, visibility acceptable for operations. The aircraft followed planned procedures, normal flight path, normal communication, everything stable. Training missions like this happened constantly. Pilots practiced navigation, radar crews practiced tracking. Military coordination remained standard. No expectation of danger existed. No expectation of mystery existed either. Then, radar operators detected unknown returns, unidentified objects appearing near operational airspace. At first, standard explanations dominated discussion: possible aircraft, equipment noise, atmospheric conditions. But the returns behaved strangely. Movement patterns did not align with ordinary aircraft behavior. The operators continued tracking carefully. Then came pilot confirmation. Lights visible outside the aircraft, objects maneuvering nearby. That detail escalated the incident immediately, because military crews rely heavily on confirmation. One source can fail. Multiple sources become harder to dismiss. The aircraft crew attempted to maintain professionalism. Descriptions remained cautious, measured. No dramatic language, no science fiction reactions, just confusion. The mission transformed from routine exercise into active investigation. Controllers requested constant updates. Pilots scanned the sky repeatedly. Radar teams monitored changing signals. And the deeper the event progressed, the stranger it became. The escalation happened gradually. That matters, because gradual escalation feels more believable, more dangerous. The crew initially treated the objects cautiously. Possible aircraft traffic, possible equipment irregularities. But the behavior became harder to ignore. The objects reportedly maneuvered unusually. Acceleration patterns seemed abnormal. Position changes occurred too quickly. At times, the lights appeared stationary, watching, then suddenly moving again. Fast, very fast. Radar tracking became inconsistent. Blips disappearing unexpectedly, then returning elsewhere. Operators recalibrated equipment repeatedly, trying to eliminate malfunction possibilities. Nothing fully resolved the issue. The pilots continued visual contact intermittently, lights appearing through darkness, sometimes distant, sometimes seemingly closer. Communication tone shifted steadily. Not panic, professional tension. The kind produced when trained personnel encounter something they cannot classify. Military operations depend on certainty, coordinates, speed, identification. Flight 412 experienced uncertainty instead. That uncertainty spread through every communication exchange. Questions repeated. Confirm visual. Confirm radar. State movement. Every answer deepened confusion. The objects did not behave consistently enough for easy identification. Some movements suggested aircraft, others did not. Then came periods where radar contact vanished entirely, only for the objects to reappear later. That inconsistency disturbed operators significantly, because equipment problems usually behave predictably. These anomalies did not. At certain moments, the lights reportedly surrounded portions of operational airspace, not aggressively, not attacking, simply present, observing. That detail fueled later speculation enormously. Still, the military crews avoided dramatic conclusions. They focused on procedure, tracking, reporting, documenting. The mission continued under growing pressure. Then conditions intensified again. Radar screens showed stronger anomalies. Pilots reported brighter visuals. Communication frequency increased. The atmosphere became increasingly strained. The possibility of unknown aircraft entered discussion quietly. Military secrecy complicated everything afterward, because incidents involving unidentified aerial phenomena often become restricted quickly. Reports narrow, information fragments, rumors expand. That pattern shaped Flight 412 permanently. Then came the disappearance phase. Radar returns faded, visual contact weakened, then vanished. The sky became empty again, almost suddenly. Then operators scanned repeatedly. Nothing. Pilots searched visually. Nothing. The objects simply ceased appearing. That abrupt ending became one of the most disturbing parts of the incident. No resolution, no identification, no explanation delivered in real time. only disappearance. The mission eventually concluded, but the questions did not. Investigators later reviewed the incident carefully, and that is where theories exploded. One explanation involves radar malfunction, completely logical. Military radar systems are complex. Interference occurs. Atmospheric conditions create false returns sometimes. Temperature inversions, electrical conditions, signal reflections, all capable of generating confusing readings. That theory explains radar anomalies, but not necessarily visual sightings, unless the pilots themselves misinterpreted lights in stressful conditions. That remains possible. Night flying distorts perception. Distance becomes unreliable. Light sources appear misleading. Human eyes make mistakes, especially during tense military operations. Another theory involves classified military technology, secret aircraft testing, experimental systems, operations unknown to the flight crew. That possibility always emerges around military incidents because secrecy naturally creates suspicion. Maybe the crew encountered advanced aircraft they were never meant to identify. Maybe radar signatures reflected experimental technology. Maybe official silence afterward reinforced those suspicions. But no confirmed evidence fully supports that explanation. Then comes the theory people remember most. UFOs, unidentified flying objects, not necessarily aliens, simply unknown aerial phenomena. That label gained momentum because both radar and pilots reported unusual behavior. Movement patterns seemed difficult to explain conventionally. Rapid acceleration, abrupt directional changes, strange visibility behavior, those details fueled speculation for decades. Still, the incident lacks definitive proof of anything extraordinary. No photographs, no recovered objects, no direct physical evidence, only reports, only testimony, only radar interpretations. That ambiguity matters enormously because ambiguity keeps mysteries alive. Too much evidence ends debate. Too little evidence kills credibility. Flight 412 exists directly between those extremes. Enough detail to disturb people, not enough detail to resolve anything. Another unsettling aspect involves military documentation itself. Some reports differed slightly over time. Descriptions changed. Details became harder to verify. That inconsistency created suspicion. Was information withheld intentionally, or were memories simply imperfect? Both possibilities remain realistic, and uncertainty feeds speculation endlessly. The psychological effect on witnesses also matters. Trained personnel confronted something they could not categorize immediately. That experience alone changes perception. Stress intensifies focus. Confusion alters memory. Fear reshapes interpretation. None of that means witnesses lied. It simply means reality becomes harder to process during unexplained events. That complexity makes Flight 412 difficult to dismiss completely and difficult to confirm completely. The radar recorded something no one could fully explain. That single fact defines the entire incident because radar operators believed they saw real anomalies. Pilots believed they saw real objects, and yet nothing concrete remained afterward. No confirmed identity, no confirmed threat, no confirmed explanation. Only fragments of observation trapped between skepticism and mystery. That is why the story survives. Not because it proves extraterrestrials, not because it proves conspiracy, but because it captures a terrifying possibility. Highly trained people encountering something beyond immediate understanding. And decades later, people still debate what really happened in that sky.